Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so just got to listening to a podcast. A couple guys from Detroit talking about the Pistons, and they were killing the GM, more or less killing the owner, Coach Monty Williams. They were destroying these dudes. But the one thing I was coming to understand was they don't have any picks over there. For all of the draft picks that they've picked up, all these lottery guys are on their team. Somehow, some way, they don't have picks coming up. Now, I don't know how the hell. I can't think of one trade that they would have made that would have foregoed the picks that they have right now coming up. I don't know how they don't have picks, but however that shook out, they don't have any. And now their team is on a 25 game losing streak. They got 2 games against Brooklyn coming up. If they don't win one of those games, the next game would be a Boston game. If they lose that game, they set the record for the worst losing streak in the history of the sport, if I'm not mistaken. They're 25. I think the whole thing is 28. That's the record. So it's Brooklyn, Boston. I don't think they're going to beat Brooklyn in either one of those games because there's a few guys on Brooklyn that just ain't going to let that happen. Cam Thomas is one of them. He's not going to happen. So if I look at the Detroit Pistons, and let's say I'm somebody that's sent in to fix the Detroit Pistons, I'm looking at their team and I'm saying our lottery talent really was good. I do not think they drafted poorly at all. You got guys like Jalen Duren, Jaden Ivey, Kate Cunningham, Wiseman, who's picking up well. They got some guys that don't suck, man. They really do. Obviously, Asur Thompson, Marcus Sasser. They got some guys that don't suck. But they also have some philosophies about role players that does suck. Picking up Joe Harris and expecting him to be your lone shooter, and he's getting DMPs. He's got to go. Bogdan Bogdanovic is a nice shooter, but he's 106 years old, and they tried to sell him for 2 picks last year. Grave mistake. He had very good value last year. They could have gotten maybe 1 first-round pick for him and a player, and they tried to keep him on the market for 2 first-round picks, knowing that no one was going to give them that. That was a fireable offense. They got a couple other guys, too, on that team. Alec Burks should not be there. Isaiah Levers, young player, should not be there. These are players that should just not have been on the team in the first place. And then you got situations where you got young players who you drafted but can't space the floor. They don't have, you got Duran, you want him in the starting lineup. You got Asur, you want him in the starting lineup. You got this affinity for Isaiah Stewart, who definitely should not be in the lineup, even though he's a good player. All of these guys are good players. They just need shooting around them, and none of them shoot well enough to create space for any of the others. You got Cade Cunningham, an up-and-coming superstar level player whose confidence is in the toilet. You got Jaden Ivey, who, when he is 100% healthy, really can level up, but he can't seem to stay healthy, and he doesn't fit next to those other guys. You got Marcus Sasser, a young guard, who you just drafted in the back of the first round. Looks like he'd be one of the best young rookies in the game, but you're not giving him the opportunity to show that because you're too busy trying to feature Cade Cunningham and all. To me, what they need to do is just try to make sense of the roster. It's not about rebuilding, because the whole thing is a rebuild. Everybody on your team is either underdeveloped or not worth a damn and should be shipped off for nothing, to create more opportunities for the young players that need to be on the floor. But first, you need to make sure that the young players who are on the floor can complement one another. So what you got to do is pick a couple guys that you don't want to let go of and build around them, and then bring them the shooters necessary to make it make sense. Now, you're going to have to understand, if you're the Pistons, you're going to have to let go of somebody. It's going to either be Cade, it's going to be Asar, it's going to be Sasser, it's going to be a combination of them. You're going to have to let go of some people in order to create some space, some things for yourself. But what you cannot do is start dreaming about bringing in players like Zach LaVine and Laurie Markkinen and all that. Some of the players that have been on the market, guys who have already established themselves as players in this league, Jeremy Grant, none of them players are ever going to want to play for you, man. They're not going to want to do that. They're going to come there and they're going to be miserable, and they're going to want the hell out immediately. They're probably going to do everything they can to keep from having to even put on your uniform unless you blow it up completely and bring them an entirely new team that doesn't look anything like what it is that you are right now. And I don't think that makes any sense when, like I said, most of your young players are lottery picks that are underdeveloped. Your vision sucks. It just sucks, man. When I look at those two centers you got, Duren and Wiseman, pick one, man. Literally pick one. I don't know what you guys are trying to do. Maybe you looked at Minnesota and saw that. Maybe you looked at Cleveland and saw that. But those two centers don't complement each other at all. And what you're doing is you're stunning the growth of Wiseman by constantly having him playing behind beef stew and Jalen Duren. And Duren is constantly off the floor with injury issues. So if I'm the Pistons, I'm probably moving Duren. I'm going to move Duren, and I'm going to pick one of them guards, and I'm getting him up out of here too, and I'm bringing myself someone that can actually shoot the basketball, who's in the same age range as these guys, but may not necessarily be where they need to be. Maybe underdeveloped. You know, somebody that could be comparable, so I'm not insulting in GMs with sending them underdeveloped players from a very bad losing streak, and that's your problem. Because your team has lost so much, now all of your assets are worth squat. Everyone knows you can't win a game. So even if I think Jalen Duren's worth a first-round pick, I'm not parting ways with that to get him. And that's just what you have on the table when you allow your team to look this bad. You know, we said this on the draft day. I like Asur Thompson a lot, and I like him more now than I did on draft day. But you should have never drafted him because he has problems stretching the floor. And you already had issues with your spacing being bad. You punted your spacing by design and cannot win a basketball game on the pro level. That's all it is. And so what they need to do is undo that. They need to undo that. And I think the easiest way to undo that, to be honest with you, is to move on from Cade Cunningham, because he's the one who can net you the most. You can move Cade Cunningham and get yourself a fleet of shooters. You can move Cade Cunningham in a 4-team deal and get yourself all kinds of elements. You know, you can get you a D'Lo Russell. You can get yourself OG Anunoby, although neither one of those guys will want to be there and are expiring contracts. A D'Lo Russell would love to re-sign with you because he's going to want to get big paid, and you could pay him that. Now, I wouldn't want to move Cade Cunningham in a situation like that. I wouldn't. But then again, I don't have a choice. If what I need to do is create some type of continuity on my team, and all of my assets are young players who have been on a 25-game losing streak. The only one that's even looked remotely any good is Cade Cunningham. And I can let go of Cade Cunningham because I know damn well if he has any pride about himself, he ain't going to sign with us. He ain't going to re-sign, man. That's the problem. Are you going to really sign him to one of those big deals when he can't win a basketball game? And he's already starting to look dejected putting on your uniform. I mean, as soon as he gets an opportunity, he's going to jet. He may take the money, but he don't want to be there. And he's the one that can get you the most stuff. So for me, I'm like, all right, that's how I'm moving. I'm acquiring expiring contracts, shooters, who can at least come in and give me the spacing necessary so that for the rest of the season, I can showcase the young talent on this team that is pretty good but doesn't look good because there's no spacing. And then I could trade them in the offseason for a higher amount, which can get me a cohesive look. Maybe get myself some first round picks or something like that with these guys like Ivy and Asur and Sasser, whoever's still left. Because the idea is to raise the trade value of what you have. But the problem is you can't raise that trade value unless you have cohesiveness on the floor. And you can't find cohesiveness on the floor because the pieces that you have don't fit. But all of them are lottery picks, so any of them at any time could turn into what it is you drafted them to be. So that's the goal. If I think Cade Cunningham is the guy moving forward for my franchise, then I got to gut everything else. Now I got to start moving Sasser, Thompson, Ivy, Duren, Wiseman, all of them probably combined to get what it is, the elements that I need. You see what I'm saying? As to where if I just move Cade, of whom I probably don't want to pay anyway, point guard, move the point guard to Ivy, make my shooting guard Sasser. You bring in somebody possibly like you could probably move K for marketing, even though marketing, like I said, he probably ain't gonna want to be there. I'm gonna put marketing at my 3 or my 4, and now I got a pure shooter in my starting lineup who could do things. I got Bogdanovich. I'll probably try to move him into some type of trade like this, so he can get to a place where he can actually contend. Because he's, like I said, he's like 39 years old, 38 years old, something like that, and can still shoot. So you need him off the team. So it's like I move him and K to Utah, bring back Markkanen and Clarkson or something like that if at all possible. And then I move forward with the rest of the young guys, man. We're not going to win a whole lot, but we'll look better. We'll win 2, 3, 4 more games than what we're expected to, which is literally 4 games. And in those 4 games, maybe I can just showcase these guys for being what they're supposed to be, man. Jalen Duren, Jaden Ivey. Because like I said, the ceiling of those guys is real high. If you're going to trade them for lottery picks, you don't have the ability to do that until you start making them look good. Now, I looked at Jaden Ivey. He looks like he's on the verge of having a good stretch starting now. If you look at over the last 2 games, he's starting to put it together. He looks healthy. Right now, literally right now, is over the next several games, the 2 Brooklyn games, I expect Jaden Ivey to play better. He had a really good game against Utah. So, you want to showcase him. If you don't want to move Cade Cunningham, I do believe Jaden Ivey is probably your next best attractive piece. He was just drafted 5 minutes ago. Everybody knows he's going to turn into something like John Morant eventually. And, even though his trade value is low right now, if you can just get him to be healthy for long enough than 5 minutes, he can have a stretch where he looks pretty good and somebody's going to want him. So that's your next best look. Asur Thompson needs to be on a team full of shooters, man. And I really do hate the idea of moving him if I have him on my squad, because I think he's going to be a super stud. I really do. But if you don't have shooters, then he's just a player that's going to be taking away your spacing. He's very limited right now. And so I hate the idea of moving him. If I'm Detroit, I would love to keep him. But he's also somebody who hasn't lost a whole lot of value because he was just drafted 5 minutes ago, just like Sasser. Nobody's down on him in any way in this league. Everybody would be excited about picking him up if they have the shooters around to make his piece make sense, which a lot of teams do. It's hard. I'm not going to lie to you. That would be hard to let go of him for me, but that's someone I would probably have to be forced to move on from in this flurry of fixing my situation. So it's a lot of different things that the Pistons can do. But the first order of business is to probably move one of those 2 centers, in my opinion, for someone who can shoot the basketball in your starting lineup, man. If I can move Jalen Duren for somebody who could shoot, I'm doing that. And we'll move forward with Wiseman, beef stew, shooter, and just do something like that. A short move, a small move that fix your spacing issue. That is what needs to happen. I'll tell you the truth. That is exactly what needs to happen. The Detroit Pistons need to move one of those guys who can't shoot for somebody who can. And I'm telling you, as a Laker fan, we're tired of D'Lo Russell. We need a Jalen Duren. I'm not saying that that's going to be the trade straight up, but I'm telling you that would be the move I'd try to make if I'm the Pistons. I'm going to try to get D'Lo Russell, maybe Bogdanovich for Duren and Bogdanovich for D'Lo Russell. Now, as a Laker fan, I'm not moving. I'm not going to make that move for you. You're going to have to give me a point guard, as I need facilitating all that. But I'm not a Laker fan in this conversation. I'm the Pistons, and I'm telling you what I need to do for myself to get some shooting around here. You feel me? Like, that's literally the mindset. And the first shooter that comes to mind that is going to be on the block is D'Lo Russell. Someone who played extra well against you in the last time y'all saw the Lakers. You know what I mean? So these are the type of things I'm thinking about. I'm like, yo, he has an expiring contract. No, he ain't going to be happy here. No, he's not going to be motivated here. But at least he creates spacing. Him and Cade Cunningham can shoot the lights out. Even if I'm bringing D'Lo off the bench, even if I'm moving Cade to the 3, which is another option. I know y'all want Cade to be your point guard. But in your lineup, He, with his size, makes a lot more sense in a different position. So you can put the ball in Ivy's hands and showcase him as a point guard. Maybe moving Sasser to the two, bringing, or moving, yeah, that this looks a little better to me. You gotta shake your lineup up if you're Monty Williams. Maybe I'm putting Bogdanovich at the three, Cade Cunningham maybe at the, move. I don't know. I don't know how to do it, but you got to shake that lineup so that you can have the spacing necessary. That is something that you have to do. Because as long as you got a bunch of non-shooters in that starting lineup, it's clunky. The shot selection is terrible. And that's another thing in watching the Pistons. Their shot selection is so bad all the time. Mid-range shots look bad. Floaters look bad. They don't rebound very well. You just got a bunch of players who are not motivated to play for your team and are losing confidence by the second. I don't know that Monty Williams is the right coach for the job, but since you gave him a 10-year deal of like $85 million, you're not going to let him go. He's a mainstay whether you love him or hate him, which was another decision that I think the Pistons should have never made, dude. I never thought Monty Williams was that great of a coach, man. Even when he had the Phoenix Suns and they were going crazy, I never thought he was that great of a coach. I got on my camera and told you guys that I really hated the idea that when Dario Saric went down, he refused to play the lottery pick power forward that they got. That is now in Indiana. Sticks is what I call him. I hated the idea that he didn't play that dude. I thought it was a difference between winning the series or at least winning another game in that final series. And it was just little stuff like that that makes me think, Monty Williams is not the guy for the job. The team should never be on no 25-game losing streak with a coach that's been paid that much. Never should be. Not even in this stage of the development of young players, even without spacing. He's got to find a way to streak together some type of lineups that make some kind of sense out there. And watching you guys against my Lakers was absolute abomination. It was an absolute abomination. So I genuinely believe that Monty Williams should probably be fired. If you don't want to let go of all those kids, you got to bring them a different voice, man. And so that's gonna be something that I stand by. Although, like I said, it's so early in the contract. You know what I mean? You don't feel like it's even possible to move that, to fire him without having to pay him for the next 20 years. So, yeah, man, it is a situation where the Pistons are probably gonna have to find themselves some spacing, man. So if there's a shooter out there that you can get, maybe you make a move with a Charlotte Hornets or something, try to get yourself somebody off of their bench from those kids that they got that have not been used very much. Book night or something. Try to find somebody who can hit a damn jump shot. Because that's your way out. You trade some guys that you got for some guys that somebody else has that's in the same boat. You know what I mean? A trade with the Jazz, teams like that who have underdeveloped players that can use a new scenery. The San Antonio Spurs, maybe. I guess there's some guys out there that you can go after that can help you with your situation if you're the Pistons, that aren't going to cost you an arm and a leg. Teams that you could send a Bogdanovich to. Maybe you send him somewhere and get yourself some second rounders that you can use as trade assets at the deadline, because that's really what you're lacking. And so I look at the Pistons, I say you did not draft poorly. Your assets didn't lose too much value in the long term. But right now, everything you have is worth half because of that trade. Because of that 25-game losing streak. But Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, Sasser, all of those guys are still covetable in this league, man. All of them. Thompson, everybody wants those players. But you having them together is a mistake. They don't fit, and they're losing value by the second. Moving Beef Stew makes sense to me. Moving him makes sense. He has value. He's a player that's coming into year 4, can block some shots. He's not a three-point shooter, but he can hit the three here and there. Definitely an enforcer in a league full of, guys that don't really enforce. He's one of the ones that you'll know. Don't toy with him. That's somebody that can be used in a lot of situations. The fact that you have an affinity for keeping him on the team, I think, is strangleholding you. No different than putting Bogdanovich at 2 picks. These are the type of things that you need to come off of if you're the GM. Beef Stew and Bogdanovich could be traded together for a shooter. You need to make that happen. That needs to happen. Duran, same thing. Bogdanovich, Duran, because this is how you get Bogdanovich off your team and get yourself back something that's really good. You got to pair him with a young player. Because that talk about getting 2 first-round picks for him, that's really what hurt you last year. You could have had assets that could help make yourself so much more flexible right now if you wouldn't have just had his price tag so high. That was insulting. As a Laker fan who could use the player, y'all putting him at that price tag at that age was insulting. And that's why he's still on your team. And I told y'all that last year too. So these are the type of things I'm looking at the Pistons. I'm saying, yo, man, if you're hell-bent on keeping Cade Cunningham, your best move is to try to create some spacing for the young fella. Create spacing for him. Stop being in love with the upside of all your pieces, because those pieces don't have that type of upside so long as they're relying upon one another. Move some stuff around to make some type of cohesive sense, and then move the rest later when you do. That's how you handle that, man. And for God's sakes, find a role for Marcus Sasser. He's entirely too talented to be playing behind all these damn guards, man. All he needs is the ball. And if you look at what's going on with Kobe White, and you see how the team got so much better when Levine went down. That's a real thing in your situation as well. Marcus Sasser could be your next Kobe White. You just got to get your Zach LaVine the hell up out of there. It's a real thing, man. And that's not the only version of that going on in this league. It's a lot of teams that have better guards who are just further behind in development than the guards that they're using, and they would be a lot better of a team if they just realize that and let that situation play itself out without the guard that's in the way. Make some trades. But, listening to those podcasters, they were saying, we need to trade our lottery picks for first-round picks. It's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Because now the guys that you've just drafted are no longer worth first-round picks. They're worth half of that because of the losing streak and because of how we've seen them play together. So even if I have a first-round pick, I'm not going to pay that for your guys. You got to play them up to make me want them again. And that, I guess now that I think about it, depending on how the GM thinks, because some of them guys would be smart to buy low on. Like, I would have loved to have picked up Kobe White when he was averaging 2 points and nobody wanted to play him 2 years ago. I was telling my Lakers to go get Kobe White. And I would have been enjoying the breakout with him in my purple and gold uniform. But most GMs don't think like that. They want a sure thing. They don't want to, they don't want to swing at the fences and end up losing. That could cost them their jobs. But you would be best to try to canvass the league to find out who's in love with what you have, and then try to see if they'd be willing to buy low on that, depending on who it is that you're willing to let go of. Because if it's Ivy, I wouldn't sell him in a buy low situation. But Duran with the knees, I might. Wiseman, I think he's on the verge of breaking out if he's in a good situation. I'd probably be willing to move him in a buy low situation. But Azor Thompson, not really. If I think I can bring myself to shooting, I'm not letting go of one of my best defenders. To be honest, I'd probably want to hold on to him more than I want to hold on to Cade. If I could pick one player on that Piston team that I'm not moving, it probably is Azor Thompson. But that's just me. I don't know if that's really what's best for the modern league when you consider the fact that he doesn't stretch the floor. But I'm going to surround myself with a bunch of shooters, and then I got my overall rebounder and defensive player already in my lineup. And like I said, Cade Cunningham is really, really in a breakout. But the thing we got to ask ourselves about Cade Cunningham is, can he stay healthy? Because he did miss a good portion of the first 2 years of his career with injuries. He's healthy right now. But for how long? And so, since he's worth so much, since he looks really good right now, and he's on the verge of making money with you guys, like I said, you already gave $80 million to a coach. I don't know if I want to pay a guy who can't stay healthy, even if he is, quote-unquote, that guy. Especially when we're on a 25-game losing streak while he looks so good. I don't know about that. The more I think about it, the more I realize Cade Cunningham's probably got to move. and get the most for him, and it makes the most sense to not pay him. And you being hell-bent on him being the guy is not going to mean that he's going to be able to ever win another game with you guys ever again. Let's just be honest. He looks great right now. You suck horribly. So that's something to consider, man. And like I said, Jaden Ivey's going to turn into one of them dudes, man. He is. Whether he does it in your uniform or someone else, 4 years from now, he's probably going to be very good. If you don't run him into the ground over there. And having him picking up such terrible losing habits that are only going to push forward in a situation like the one you've created. You got to move somebody. And one of those guys is probably a keeper. So I think Ivy is obviously one who was just drafted last year. You don't have to pay him as soon as you would have to pay Cade. I think Ivy's probably the one I would likely be willing to keep, if either in this situation. So these are things that have to be considered, man. If you're a team like the Pistons, you're on a historic losing streak, moves need to be made. You can't just sit back and sit on your hands and wait for your players that you have to develop. They're not developing properly, and that's the point. Nor do they have any desire to stay with you, nor will they gain any value without spacing around them. So all of this means you got to start moving stuff. And you believing in a guy is not good enough reason to keep them in a situation. It's not. And that's what I really have to say about the Pistons, man. I don't know when the streak is going to end. A part of me thinks you actually will beat the Nets in one of these two games. I'm leaning toward that might actually be possible. But I think that's more hope for you guys rather than evidence. Like I said, Cam is going to go nuts on your terrible defense. And Claxton and those guys are healthy. It's going to be tough. But that's your best bet in not breaking that record. I'll tell you that, because you ain't going to beat Boston. I know that much. But, Wiseman, you might be able to get something for Wiseman, man. Y'all might want to consider showcasing him over the next two games, because he was having a nice little week last week. I even put him on my fantasy team, and then y'all went back down and not playing him. That's a mistake. You got to have some consistency with who you're playing if they're playing well, regardless if you're winning or losing, because it's about trade value at this point. It's not about winning or losing. You can't win. So whoever's doing the best for you needs to be on the floor the most so that you can shop them. And that's what I would be telling Monty Williams. Like, bro, if somebody's playing well, just play them consistently. I don't give a damn. We're not winning anyway. Play Wiseman 40 minutes and let him get his 30-point game so that people can really be excited about him. Because it's coming if you just play him, especially while Duran is out. Sit the guys that don't have no trade value, man. Stop playing Alec Burks, fam. Just bench him. Bench him entirely. You're not getting nothing for him. He's not spacing the floor properly for your team. He's old, long in the tooth. He's just stuck there. He's just going to have to sit. There's nothing good that comes from playing him, in my humble opinion. Isaiah Lever, same thing. Average player. He's not worth nothing. Don't play him. This is about showcasing guys so that you can get something for them. So if you can't do that, if the players that you're playing can't get you nothing, they don't need to be playing. Nothing's working any damn way. And that's what I would tell Monty Williams. Like, bro, nothing's working. You're not winning games with the stuff that you're doing with this roster. Just play who can produce. That's literally it. So, that's what comes to mind, man. Shake the starting lineup around. Showcase the young players as best you can. And then create, by way of little moves, the spacing necessary to showcase everybody else. And then from there, within a year's time, regardless if you ever win a game or not, your value of your players should be increased based on how much better they look. And you should be able to create some type of vision for what it is your team's going to be going forward. And then from there, you should be able to trade stuff to get some lottery picks, trade 2-for-1s, that kind of thing. And from there, you should be all right. BDL 44, I thank y'all for watching. I'm out.